Hi everyone, this is Lauren from the LKS Address. Welcome back to our YouTube channel. We just finished up a two-part library makeover and we turned our unused living room into a home library all fit with an IKEA Billy bookcase hack and decorated the entire room. One of the other big projects in the room that we did was painted our vinyl windows black, and the project turned out so well that we wanted to do a full tutorial video from start to finish on all of the steps and products we use to paint our vinyl windows black. So let me show you what the before of our windows looked like and let's get started. Let's talk about why we decided to paint our vinyl windows black. And when we purchased our house, we had different windows in the house as they've been replaced over time. So the back of our house had wood windows and the front of our house had vinyl windows. To us, all of them look dated, and you might also have dated looking windows in your house that you want to update. For the wood windows, we ended up staining them all black and refinishing them, and they turned out beautifully and it really updated the overall look. We hadn't yet renovated any of the rooms in the front of our house. We hadn't needed to tackle updating the vinyl windows. And rather than replacing the windows, which can get really expensive, we opted to try to paint and refinish them. And the worst thing that can happen is that they don't look that great and then you end up replacing them in a few years. But we were pleasantly surprised how good refinishing our vinyl windows actually turned out in the end. To kick off this project, we're gonna start by removing the existing window trim. This step isn't necessary, however, we're in the process of removing and replacing all of the existing window trim in our entire home. And in the end, it will make it easier to prep and paint our vinyl windows. So we're starting off by using an X-Acto knife to score along the existing caulk edge. And then we're gonna go in and use our trim remover tool, which makes it so much easier to get existing trim off of the wall. On a similar note of needing to update windows and not necessarily wanting to fully replace them because windows are very expensive, there are some concerns with refinishing or painting vinyl windows, especially going with a dark color like black. Now, outside on the exterior, it is not recommended to paint your vinyl windows black. The heat on black paint can cause them to warp and melt, but on the inside, there is a little bit less of a concern of that happening. But before you tackle this project, the number one thing to do is to check your warranty on your windows. It's really good to double check that painting them on the interior will not void the warranty. For us, these windows are almost out of warranty, so it really wasn't that big of a deal. After all the trim was removed, we were gonna move on to prepping the windows for paint, which included sanding and then taping and masking everything off. We are sanding with 240 grit sandpaper. This is always Cam's job because he has a heavier hand than I do. It's important to really rough up the surface so that you get good adhesion with the primer. And then once they were all sanded, we cleaned them off and vacuumed. We wiped them with a tack cloth, and then I went in and I started to mask off all of the windows. We used some of the 3M plastic film to cover the whole window and cover the sides of the wall because we weren't really sure how far the spray paint was going to spray. If you want to tackle a project like this in your own home, the prep stages are by far the most important stages of this project. Prep can make or break the paint finish and make the difference between it looking more like a DIY or looking like a professional painted these windows. The prep stages for a good paint finish include a light sand, vacuuming up all of the sanding dust, cleaning the window, running a tack cloth on it, and before we get priming, we're gonna carefully mask off the window so that we can get a really clean paint edge around the glass and perimeter of the window. We are ready to paint the windows. We spent probably 4 to 5 hours yesterday sanding, tack clothing, taping off. We also added plastic around the perimeter of the window and on the glass. We're not really sure how far the spray paint is going to go, so we just wanted to be prepared. And today we are going to be first priming with this Krylon bonding primer. So we're going to do 1 coat primer to start on both windows. We'll see how this goes, but I am assuming it's going to go pretty quickly because painting like this is all in the prep. When it comes to painting the window, we did a ton of research on the proper paint to use. This is also really, really important to, one, have a good paint finish, and two, to have the paint finish last over time. And contrary to what I would have thought, it is recommended to use 100% acrylic paint on these windows. It allows the window to expand and contract, and the paint doesn't harden and potentially crack in the future. Also, you might want to use a vinyl safe paint, which again kind of goes with the dark colors if you're painting on the exterior. For our windows, we ended up using primer first, and we're using Krylon bonding primer. This primer did great and I highly recommend it. And then for the paint, we're using the Krylon Fusion paint in black, and both of these products, as I mentioned, are 100% acrylic. I'm starting off with spraying one coat of the primer. I'm doing light back and forth sprays. I'm trying to make sure that there is really good coverage, but at the same time, you don't want to apply it too thick because then you might have drips. So there's a happy medium between. Once I finished up that one coat of primer and the windows dried for 20 minutes, I started to go in with my first coat of black spray paint. I'm essentially applying it the same, very light back and forth coats. And it's okay if you're not getting full coverage in your first coat because you're going to go in with multiple coats. We ended up doing 3 coats to make sure that we had 100% coverage. For application, the dry time and recoat time for the Krylon Fusion paint is kind of interesting. So it dries to the touch within 20 minutes and you have to recoat within 2 hours. And if you miss that 2-hour window, then you recoat 2 days later, 48 hours later. So we timed out this project really well. And if you're not using the Krylon paint and you're using a different brand of spray paint, I would check closely in the painting instructions and what it says the dry time and the recoat time are. So we started off with the 1 coat of primer, and then after 20 minutes, we went in and applied the first coat of paint. Then again, we continued to time it. So about every 20 minutes, we went in with another coat of paint. We did 3 coats of the black paint in total. We let it dry for at least an hour or 2 before we took off the tape. And then before using any of the window operation, I think we let it dry for like at least a week. It's really good to let the paint fully cure before you start using the window again. All right, checking in. I finished spraying the coat of primer and then 3 coats of black spray paint on the windows. I've showered and now I look presentable. They are looking really, really good. This is one of those things where you have to just like fully commit. After we did this first coat of primer, Cam was kind of like, what the heck are we doing? But there was no turning back at that point, so we just had to commit. Actually worked out to be really easy and went really, really fast. So I'm excited to see how they look once all of this comes down in an hour or 2. We'll see you then. You'll notice that as we started spray painting these windows, the spray paint dust went everywhere. I didn't even realize that spray paint created dust because I've never done a project this big with spray paint. So PPE for this project is really important. Number 1, you have to use a respirator. You'll see in the video that I started by just using a medical mask and that was not good enough. So I ended up switching to our respirator. We'll leave that link below. Glasses are very important to protect your eyes. And then if possible, I would mask off the entire room with plastic. I wish we would have done that because we had dust all over our house. Even though we were using our air purifier on full speed, an air purifier is always a good idea when you're doing messy projects in your house to make sure that you have good air quality and the toxic fumes aren't going everywhere. Okay, we got all of the tape and plastic off. The windows are officially done, and honestly, they turned out better than I would have expected. Spray painting didn't necessarily seem like the way we wanted to go because we typically always use our paint sprayer with like traditional paint, but I definitely think it was a blessing because the finish is really nice. It was so easy to do. It was really easy to get the tape off because the paint wasn't just like layered on, and it was really good. There are 2 other products that I would not do this project without, and the first product is frog tape. I think I mentioned that I have stopped using frog tape and I switched back to traditional blue tape. Frog tape is kind of expensive, but honestly, all painter's tape is expensive, and I recently went back to using frog tape and I don't know why I ever stopped using it. It gives the crispiest paint edge, and it has really good adhesion. So if you want to get that really clean edge along your glass line of your window, I highly recommend picking up frog tape. It's a must to have a professional looking paint finish. And then secondly, I started spraying these windows without this Rust-Oleum handle tool, and it gets really tiring and my forearm was on fire. So halfway through, Cam had to go get more spray paint and he picked up the Rust-Oleum spray handle for me, and it made painting so much easier. It made it feel much more natural, like I was using a paint sprayer, and I highly recommend that, especially if you're gonna be doing a project like this with at least 4 coats. It definitely makes it go faster and makes it so much easier on your arms. We then finish off our freshly painted windows with new window trim and floor-to-ceiling curtains. So let us show you how our painted vinyl windows turned out. And one really important question to ask ourselves once the project is done is, would we do this project again and would we recommend it to all of you? And the answer is really clear. It is a yes. These windows turned out way better than I had ever expected. I think they look really professional. They're fully operable, and I feel confident that the paint finish is gonna last for years to come. And most importantly, this is a really economical way to upgrade the look of your windows, especially if you have dated looking windows that you don't feel like coordinate with your house without having to fully replace them. This was a way to use our existing windows but make them feel cohesive with the design of the rest of our house. And with that, we're gonna wrap up the video here. We hope you enjoyed our tutorial on how we painted our vinyl windows black. We'll link all the products and tools we used in the description below. And if you like this video, please thumbs up the video, subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next time.